All right, we're back having a conversation with Dr. Joel Freeman about the Rosetta Stone project. And if this is not great content, I don't know what is. People, what more could you want? We're about to solve all the problems in the world, and we're not even going to forget what we solved. Dr. Joel Freeman is here with us. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I did tease the fact that I'm going to ask you a question. And maybe I'll just do this because I know that we're kind of, as de Tocqueville would say, we're kind of in this era where we have a national crisis. He saw elections and the danger of democracy being that there's this peaceful transference of power that happens every 4 years. And he was kind of suspicious about that because it does kind of put us in this place where we're in a little bit of a frenzy. Who are we going to vote for? What are the candidates saying? What are they not saying? What do they really mean by what it is that they're saying? All those different things that kind of creates this moment of national crisis for us. But I wanted to ask the question maybe like this. What would you say are some of the biggest problems that maybe both politicians, all politicians, anybody that's in government needs to be thinking about and trying to solve by way of a triage? You talked about the campfire, the bonfire, and the wildfire. What are the things that are wildfire status in our country that both politicians or all parties need to be involved in solving?
Well, we look at, the economy, is one thing. We have all these different issues: housing, race relations in America, and you could make a list of all these things. I heard a story once. I've never checked it out to be it's true, but you put red ants and black ants in a bottle, and they get along just fine. But if you shake the bottle, they will fight to the death, and because they somehow feel like the other group is attacking them in some way. So my question is, who's shaking the bottle? And
Okay.
I kind of look at more of a macro view of all of this. And we have, for instance, all of media, or most of media, is controlled by 6 conglomerates. And I could mention, you got Fox, you have Disney, you have Warner, I could go, there's 6 in all that,
Mhm.
you name the media pretty much out there.
ABC, NBC,
Yeah, they're
yeah,
controlled by these 6 conglomerates. Those 6
MSNBC,
conglomerates,
CNN.
yeah, those 6 conglomerates are the majority owner of their stock shares is BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. And they also, those 3 investment companies they own the lion's share of the military industrial complex, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and all the rest. And there's just a list of hundreds of them. So my question is, if we have all these different things in our country that are just the common sense folks in middle America look and just shake their head and say, what are they drinking in DC? Why would people vote in the way that they are, let's say with open borders? I'm not against immigrants coming in, but why do we have an open border? Why are we helping Ukraine close their borders and then opening our borders? Why
You
are
never
we
say it like that, did you?
why
Our
what are
borders are
we
open, but we are working as hard as we possibly can to keep Ukraine's borders closed and Israel's borders closed, by the way. Just throw that one in there.
Yes. And so common sense says there's something crazy going on, and I think money and power drive it. And so and I think there are many people that come into politics that are that have good motivation. And, I've met some of them that come into it saying, I really want to make some change. I see some problems here, and they talk common sense. But then when they get into Congress, let's say, or the Senate, now it's all about fundraising. And if you don't fundraise enough, you're not going to get a position in a committee, high position, head of a committee. You're not going to rise in the political realm. And so it becomes this hamster in a treadmill where they're just doing all this stuff. And then I sometimes wonder if there are, compromise, people make mistakes and then the machine holds it over them. If you don't vote this way, those tapes will be released. I sometimes wonder
Mm.
about all that stuff. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. You don't see any tinfoil hat on my head. I just look at the facts. I try to study things in a macro, larger way in politics. And so, for instance, I look at Baltimore City. I've lived in Baltimore City many years. We now live in Severn near Annapolis. But I watched under one politician, Baltimore City received $1.6 billion to clean up the city to help with education. Under another politician, they received $16 billion. So in a space of about 9.5 years, almost a decade, they received almost $18 billion. And yet, if you, me, and maybe five other people who are watching this and participating got together, had that kind of mandate with that kind of money, you'd almost be able to eat off the streets of Baltimore today because of the integrity with which we would handle those funds and the mandate and how serious we would handle the mandate. And
Sure.
so I look at, people look to government to save things. I probably lean more toward libertarian. Just pick up my garbage, keep the streets clean, let's have internal and external security, and maybe a few other things that you could probably mention that I have forgotten. But other than that, just stay the heck out of my life and just govern in a way that frees the people up to be who they are and to fix things and work things out. Yes, there are things that government is needed for, but for the most of it, when government gets involved, building a website or providing MVA, all that kind of stuff. It just seems
A
like it's
database, Big Brother.
crazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's my philosophy, and I'm sticking to it. Maybe it didn't respond to your question specifically enough, but
I
I think
think you
that it affects what we're talking about in a very big way.
right, because I'm certainly not on the Erskine Music Show. My name and brand is all over this, and so I'm not worried about getting in trouble on my own show. Uh, Nor do I think you're worried about getting in trouble. I think you've well established yourself, and that's the kind of entrepreneurial spirit, as we're talking about even this subject matter, that I think is so freeing and so necessary in a republic, is that you do have people who can think freely without the specter of, or the Damocles sword hanging over their heads of, if I say this, then I'm going to get canceled by everybody that's out there. If I say this, then I'll never be able to play another show again. No, Joel, and I don't say this with any type of prideful arrogance. My talent will take care of itself. When you see Erskine Music play a show, that's the reason why Erskine Music is playing show. Now, obviously, the Lord is directing that. He's guiding that. I'm very humble about the process. I'm very thankful about that. But I don't have to do certain things that I'm watching other people feel like they have to do to manufacture what they think they want to do. And you talked about, this sort of mantra of taking learning into a response time. If you're an entrepreneur, your response time can be very quick because you've already done the research, you've already done the work. And so you can just respond and have actionable items that comes out all the time. Action, 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 and always being forward moving. And so, no, I don't think that you danced around the question. I just think that there's not enough politicians who are actually thinking about solving solutions.
Mhm.
In fact, I'll just go ahead and say this, at risk of getting myself offed before before and at the appropriate time. I have talked to some people about wanting somebody to run for president of the United States. Now, that's a far-fetched dream that's out there because, to your point, Joel, I see the things that are going on in our society, and I think, man, I really hope that somebody of sincere nature and genuine heart can approach these problems and then try to help people. And so, not long ago, and at least over the last few years, I've started making some inquiries into what it would require to be a part of the system, so to speak. And I ended up at a Republican fundraiser of sorts, and I'm not going to say where because it would be very obvious if you paid attention. A Republican fundraiser in which I'm having some conversations with I'm conservative, but I'm not a Republican, if that makes sense. I'm having some conversations with people, and good people, genuine people, who are basically telling me, look, your Christian convictions and the things that you care about are wonderful, but you got to work within a system of people who are sometimes not all that savory to be able to get to where it is that you want to be. or you won't get the kickback on that. And people already know this about me. I live in the city of Nashville and know a lot about what's going on in Nashville, and know people who have been tapped for prospective mayoral candidacy who have said things like this: I could move in that direction. However, by the time I actually got to that office, I'm not sure how much of me would actually be left after all the special interest groups who have helped me get to where it is that I've gotten to, get their fair share of what it is that they've invested for me to get to where I'm at. And so I would essentially just be a figurehead. And I think, Joel, in reading about democracy and being keenly interested in democracy and what that is and representative republics, I think the issue is, to your point, we have an oligarchy, or at least a type of aristocracy, that is supremely unhelpful for people. And people are beginning to realize it and getting nervous and tense about it. But I don't think they realize that the concentration of power and the concentration of economy is really in the hands of just a few people.
Yep. I, I can't disagree with anything you just said. Cannot disagree.
And so, therefore, being a solutionist, I think the entrepreneurial route is important because it allows you a degree of freedom to be able to move in ways and say things and do things and have action items that come from, and hopefully the audience that's watching this today can hear me genuinely say this, that comes from a heart that has been regenerated by the Lord, that does see good in the world, that does see the glory of Christ in the world, and then wants to respond actionably to that, and not being intimidated by the forces that are out there. And so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, there's I know people who've gone into politics and have come talk privately about some of the challenges of being in politics. And then I find that when you talk to them later, when they've gone through the process of whatever whatever position they entered into, and then later when they retired or voted out, they then knew what the beast was like, if I could use that term,
Mm-hmm.
and then they could do something from the outside that would have more of an impact than being inside. And so I take my hat off to people who want to dive in and get inside politics. It's a dirty, nasty game. It's blood sport, and it's in my opinion it's I just am very cynical about a lot of things that go on in politics. And but to be able to see where we are and bloom where we're planted and do things that are behind the scenes that can help in different ways and have more be more nimble and do more things. I just, to me, staying outside of politics, for me personally, me and my house,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm open to that, but I'm open to whatever God calls me to do. I want to be obedient, but because God knows we need people in entertainment, we need people in music, film, we need people in business, need people in economics, all the different things. We need pastors, because I think we in the church we sing to ourselves and preach to ourselves and write to ourselves far too much,
Mm-hmm.
but that's needed. That's needed. And but I'm like C.T. Studd. He said some people would rather live within the sound of a church bell. Not me. I'd rather run a rescue shop within a yard of hell. And
Yes.
that's I want to be in the metaverse. I want to be. Those are the kind of things I want to do. Is to be where where people are, and where things are going. So that's kind of what motivates me.
Well, praise the Lord. Maybe in the spring, if you're able, I don't know what country you'll be in, where you'll be traveling, but in the spring in season 10, Lord willing, if the Lord hasn't returned, we can have you come back and talk about some of those projects that you've been working on in conjunction with and as a derivative of the things that we've talked about on this show today, that are in the metaverse, that are in the world of AI, and sort of these concurrent streams that you talked about that are world shaping phenomenon that we're experiencing. Maybe talk about how you've approach some of those things, because you and I, sort of privately have exchanged some things, and I'm really excited about what it is that you're doing in that area. But I think that it'll help people to recognize that, you know, learning and knowledge and all these different things, coupled with action, coupled with understanding the times that you live in, makes those action points even more salient and pointed and appropriate. And so,
And I think what's important is, like any business, any organization comes up with a set of mission, vision, core values, code of conduct.
right.
And I think that we as individuals need to do that. And many, many years ago, I developed a mission, vision, core values, code of conduct. And when I'm stuck in an airport somewhere or some other, in the morning having time with the Lord, I'll just pull that out on my phone and I'll look over it. And just like that ship captain from Stavanger, Norway, I'll check the X marks to see if I'm getting off track. And
Mm,
so I think
so good.
when a person goes into education, they go into AI, they go into all these different aspects, government or whatever it might be, is to periodically check the longitudinal, latitudinal points and just see, what is truly happening. Am I giving something up here? Am I, and I taking chunks out of my integrity? And I refuse to allow that to happen. And so I'm fierce about that kind of stuff.
I love that
And
you said that with some bass in your voice, and I love that. I refuse to let myself veer off course. And you said that you're approaching 70 or so.
I just turned 70 in 2 months ago.
And this man wants to finish strong. Like we should all want to finish strong. A long legacy and a long history of God's blessing upon his life, his learning, his pursuits. And he says, with bass in his voice, I'm going to check true north and make sure that I finish strong. However long that is, we going
Yes.
to keep going until we get to the
You
celestial
remember
city.
Warren
Love it.
Wiersbe? Remember Warren Wiersbe? Did the
Yes.
B series.
The B series.
He
Yeah.
became a very dear friend, and he had no digital stuff. I just call him up on his home phone if he was there, and as he got older, he was there a lot. And so we would just talk. And I remember one time, late just before he passed away, he just said, I hope I don't screw up. I hope I finish well." And I'm thinking, here's a guy who was a pastor of the Moody Church. You can list the resume obituary type stuff about him, and he is still tentative about finishing strong, even just
Hmm.
a year or so before he passed away. And that
Praise
that
the Lord.
that was very sobering to me, actually, and very instructive to me. Just that one little exchange I had with Warren Wiersbe.
Wow. Tending the vine, tending the vine. Well, I don't think we can do any better than this. It's been an incredible interview. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to our future conversations.
Thank you very much.
All
Appreciate
right.
you or all that you
God
do.
bless.
God bless.